Thank you for coming so much. We're really, really honored to welcome these farmers from Andhra Pradesh and some leaders in the feminist movement that I've admired for years and years as well. I feel extremely honored to be here with all of you. This is a subject, women in farming, women feed the world, that is extremely dear to me. Having kind of entered the farming community and worked lobbying and advocacy in the UK for so long and entering so many spaces where I was definitely the only brown woman in the room. And there was lots of Barber jackets and lots of older men feeling that they were the ones feeding the world, but silently feeling like, you know what, I still should, I feel like I should be here. And knowing that I could claim that space, knowing that the majority of the world was actually being fed by small brown women, and that if I wanted to stand up at the Oxford Farming Conference and say something, you know, I think I had some sister support all over the world. And so there's a couple things I wanted to talk about. Is just how important it is that these farmers and Vijay are from Andhra Pradesh. Just to, I'm supposed to be chair, but I'm gonna talk anyway because I do. That's what I do. Because 25 years ago, in thinking about also what their stories and what they're doing affects what we can do to support here, based in the UK. 25 years ago, there was a project that was sponsored by the Department for International Development. Now the name of that department has changed to FCDO, Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, but at the time it was called DFID, which was called Vision 2020. And that was a project sponsored by the UK government, £365 million, that was being given to a project to try and convert the agriculture in the state of Andhra Pradesh from the very biodiverse, smallholder-based farming, the types of farming primarily led by women, with seeds that were saved, using very mixed biodiverse cropping, much of what you'll hear today. Hopefully, we'll hear a lot more about that sort of farming, to more industrialized green revolution agriculture. And the goal of this project, which was designed by an American consultancy firm called McKinsey, was to remove a third of the population from agriculture, to transition them to what? There was nothing named in this project called Vision 2020. What was the vision? What was going to happen to 20 million people removed from the land there? No retraining, no idea of resettling people on other parts of land, just that would be the transition. And they were placing this program onto the state of Andhra Pradesh without any consultation. And so there was a research organization that went to Andhra Pradesh and decided, because there was no consultation with the people that lived on the ground, that lived in the villages, that were doing the farming there, about whether they or not they wanted to transition to a different form of agriculture, they held citizens' juries and went from village to village to try and ask, what future do you want for farming? And unanimously, the results of it were that actually we wanted a type of agriculture that's actually based on our knowledge and our traditional seeds. And so we took this information that came back to us through the citizen jury process and from hearing from farmers there as activists here in the UK to try and stop this project from happening. And we were lucky to have 7 women from Andhra Pradesh come at the time over to the UK, went to Parliament, set up a beautiful, beautiful mandala of their seeds in the Parliament to try and say, listen to us. If it's a development program, listen to what we actually want for a future for agriculture. And they didn't really listen. And so these amazing women were very, very strong and decided, we're going to go to DFID and stand in front of the doors and blockade the doors until they listened to us. And so it was amazing. And a handful of us, maybe 10 of us, went along with these women who just went and blocked the doors to the DFID offices and refused to move until they agreed to speak with them. And it was incredibly powerful and incredibly brave thing, and they stayed. And eventually, when they realized that they weren't going to get in and out of the building because these women were not going to move, they were taken up to their office and started to talk to some of the people that were actually planning this program. And in the end, with a bit of a media campaign behind it, they actually got the program canceled. And I thought that was an amazing thing that kind of showed that the root of a lot of what's happening to this agriculture is from us not listening and not hearing more about these programs. And that carries on today because the FCDO has a strategic framework for agriculture that they push forward. And the goal of the strategic framework for agriculture for the UK development aid budget is to remove people from agriculture, to actually transition people into other parts of the economy. Yet again, that's without consultation with the millions of farmers, especially women farmers around the world, that are doing this kind of work. And you can see from the Indian farmer protests, which maybe we'll hear a bit more about today, that, that some of that, when we looked back at our role in it here in the UK Development Department had sponsored and paid for some of the work that was done for the Indian government to put together the farm bills that the Indian farmers were protesting against. The root of that still comes from this mindset that is not listening to the women on the ground who are doing the actual farming. And so we need to really look back at that and figure out how we can reverse that by actually talking to the development departments, listening and learning as much as we can, and opening up those conversations to make sure that the money that we're putting in as taxpayers, or that we have a right to have a say over what's being spent by our governments, is actually going to support this kind of work. And just quickly on that as well, a lot of this finance, and some of you may have heard me talk about this morning, comes from the money that's going now into climate finance, loss and damages packages, adaptation packages, all the things that are the climate change talks. Our government offers forward into the international arena as finance to transition us into climate resilience. Most of that goes for agriculture at the moment goes to support big agribusinesses, genetically modified crops, more green revolution technologies, more intensification of agriculture. It's up to us to make sure that that finance can actually be used to support initiatives like the zero budget natural farming, the things that we're going to hear about today. We will be running an ongoing campaign with the Land Workers Alliance to try and support this work to be done so that the money can go to these kinds of projects, so that we can have a real revolution on the ground up using women's knowledge that has been for centuries the way that the world has primarily been fed to transition us into the new era, because it needs to be based on that and not the profits of agribusiness corporations. So in order for us to learn about more, I'm going to first introduce Vijay Kumar, who's joining us by Zoom. Vijay is the Executive Vice Chairman of Ritu Sarkara Samta, Andhra Pradesh, a government organization for farmers' empowerment. As CEO for the Society for Elimination of Rural Poverty, he implemented a statewide program of poverty eradication based on women's self-help groups, enabling the largest transition in agroecology in the world. Vijay, I'm going to turn it over to you and your amazing work.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good afternoon to everyone. It's 9:30 p.m. here in Andhra Pradesh. So first of all, I'm so happy to be with you, and I'm really so happy that Mirabi, our farmer hero, she will be talking to you about her experience, and then ably supported by my fantastic colleague Swati, who has been with me for the last 7 years. So I'm very happy to be with all of you. And I also, like to say that the title of this session, let me just load my presentation. Yes. So it's, women feed the world, but I think it should be stronger. Women not only feed the world through their work in natural farming, climate resilient agroecology, regenerative agriculture. Women are the only hope for saving the world from a climate catastrophe. So I would say we should change the title, not just feed the world, but they're saving the planet. So I think whatever we owe to God, we owe to the women who are working day and night in the fields, keeping us alive. So that's my first comment on the title. And my team will be talking about the work that we are doing, the Andhra Pradesh community managed natural farming. So our vision is that all 6 million farmer households, and more important, estimated 2 million farm worker households. These are landless farm workers. So all of them transition and enhance, stabilize their livelihoods, but more important, as I said, save the planet. So this is our vision. And how did we start? So this is a very important thing. It's already mentioned. So government of Andhra Pradesh, started a pilot in the year '95 that how organizing women, helping them to build their own institutions. How does it impact on their quality of life, food security, poverty eradication, employment? So this was a very successful pilot. This was supported by UNDP. This was a pilot run in all the South Asian countries. But in India, this pilot ran in Andhra Pradesh. It was very successful. So the government of Andhra Pradesh decided to scale it up. So by 2000, about 100,000 women had been organized into their own institutions. So I was fortunate to lead this program in the year 2000. And I led this I was part of this for about 10 years. So from 100,000 women, we could take it to organizing 11.5 million women in Andhra Pradesh alone. That was end of 2010. And as you can see in Andhra Pradesh, the institutional architecture, that is the key. So you have women who self-organize into the basic unit. Basic building block is a 10 to 12 member group. That's the women self-help group. Mirabi herself was a member of the self-help group. She will explain that also. Then all self-help groups in a village federate into a village organization. In Telugu, it makes more sense, but when you translate English, it becomes village organization. This means united. All women come together. So in SHG, a woman knows that 10 women are behind her. But when it comes to the village organization, then each woman has the strength of 150, 200 women behind her. Then there's a further federation at the mandal level, which is a grouping of around 30, 40 villages. So represents around 8,000 odd women. So when they reach the mandal samakya, so that means the strength of 8,000 women come together in one organization. And then finally the district federation, the JEDS, Jilla Samakya, where 200,000 to 500,000 women come together. So this is the institutional architecture crafted in Andhra Pradesh over the last 25 years. Of course, we can say 30 years if we start the pilot, 1995 onwards. So this has resulted in more than 95% of rural poor women being part of these networks. And these are amazing networks. They were not started for any one particular purpose. The purpose is women come together, women with similar background, financial or, by way of occupation, they come together. And by coming together, they unleash energies amongst each other. So it's, one woman gains the strength of 10 women. So that is the power of these organizations. And they have norms, they meet regularly, they save regularly, they lend to each other, they take collective action, there is transparency, and then they federate. So once they federate, then at the village level, these women can then deal with other institutions from a position of power. So local governments there also listen to the women because they are now organized. So And in these 3 decades, and this has been a partnership between government and women. It's not been easy, and I've seen the beginning. We faced a lot of problems, but I think there's something remarkable about these women, our women, when they build their own institutions. The amount of strength they acquire, the amount of knowledge they acquire, their financial ability. You can see here the women's savings is close to $1 billion, and the corpus, which is the interest on these savings, is another 1 billion. But what is important, interesting is that collectively in Andhra Pradesh in 2022-23, these rural poor women would borrow close to $4 billion, and this is collateral free loans. So each self-help group, this 10-member group, can borrow up to 2 million rupees collateral free. Their husbands, even if they offer land as collateral, may get only 1/4 of that. So that's the kind of financial empowerment that has happened as a result of coming together. And I never dreamt, when we started the work in the year 2000, one day these institutions will also be the leaders of agroecology transformation. So this foundation that was laid has actually enabled us to reach where we are. So we have a goal of 6 million farmers. So last year we reached about 850,000 farmers and about 260,000 landless poor. So in this transition to natural farming, we do not give any promise that they'll get a financial incentive during the transition. So there's no cash incentive during transition, and neither do we promise that they'll get a marketing premium after transition. We tell them that it's good for your health, you'll earn more money, your productivity will increase, your yields will go up, costs will come down, then there'll be greater resilience to floods and droughts. So we're also supported by two very major philanthropies, Azim Premji Philanthropy and Co-Impact. But 95% of the money is from government. So that is the strength of the program. It's a government-led program, but government in partnership with women self-help groups, in partnership with farmers. And the women in natural farming or agroecology play a very critical role. They provide that moral support to each other during transition. They also finance the transition. So government is not financing the individual farmers' transition. The women, through their own savings, through the bank loans, are financing the transition. They facilitate collective learning and collective action. And another most important task is, long-term hand-holding. Because this transition doesn't happen 1 year. It takes 4 or 5 years for a farmer. Initially she'll start in 1/4 of the area, then slowly extend the area. But also the depth of practices, they increase over a period of time. And also it takes time to convince the family. And Mirabi will tell you, but my own experience is the women, one of their first tasks is to convince their husbands to give up chemical agriculture. So that takes time. And I recently met a farmer. She told me it took her 3 years to convince her husband. But then, she did half her, there was a good understanding between them. So they had 2 acres of land. So 1 acre she did through natural farming, 1 acre her husband continued with chemical agriculture. Third year he realized he was completely defeated because he got huge losses. But our woman hero, she made money. So then he told her that, now you are correct, I'll follow you. So this intra-family, it could be between the father and son, daughter-in-law, mother-in-law, So to manage these internal family related issues also takes time. And that's where the strength of the self-help groups in managing the transition comes. So it's not just money, but also a lot of behavior change of the farmers, of the family, and that is where the but for the women's organizations, this kind of transformation would not be possible. And we also have very special intervention for the most vulnerable women. These are the women who don't have any lands. So their living comes from working in other farmers' fields. So for them, we have a plan for homestead gardens where they grow 10, 12 different kinds of crops. So the household nutrition requirement of vegetables, fruits is taken care of through the homestead gardens. But we also have a graduation strategy for them so that they're able to, once again, confidence in this, they're able to take lands on lease, also then take up the cereal cultivation. So we recognize that these are the most vulnerable households and therefore they are our priority for interventions. And finally, what is natural farming? And so we have about 9 principles, and then essentially it is I would say very similar to what is called as regenerative agriculture. So we don't need any external inputs, neither chemical inputs nor organic inputs. So we believe in activating the soil biology and photosynthesis as the basis for life, and therefore the 365 days green cover is one of our leading principles. Crop diversity, so 10, 15, 20 different crops, different seasons of the time. So diverse crops including trees, integrating animals into farming, no tillage, but we use biostimulants to trigger soil biology. Then also we promote covering the soil, and we promote farmers' own seeds or indigenous seeds, and then pest management through better agronomical practices and through botanical pesticides where it's not being managed, and no chemical, no synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, and weedicides. So over these years, what we have seen is the women are able to provide that hand holding support that is required for the transformation. And that is what is missing, little understood. Most of the time the thinking is that, okay, let us give some financial incentive and the transformation will happen. So we are not following that. We recognize that. The so we 4 pillars, I would say. One important pillar is the fact that government is supporting, government in partnership with people, government is providing resources. So the scaling up requires government support. And this is a democracy, so we fight with the government to ensure that this is done. So the second pillar, which is very, very important, is the role of our women self-help groups. The third is the knowledge pillar. The principles that I have enunciated have evolved over 8, 9 years of our work. We started with practices, but we went into the science behind it. So these principles are applicable not only in Andhra Pradesh, they're applicable anywhere. But how does one take these principles to other farmers? And that is our fourth very important innovation. And you have one of our heroes there, Mirabi. She'll explain this. This innovation is farmer to farmer, the champion farmer. So the best practitioner farmer is the trainer. So I believe very strongly that every farmer is a scientist, and every farmer also is a trainer. So we select the best among them, and we have an army of 10,000 such champions. It takes us 3 to 4 years to develop one champion farmer, and we have master farmers who then incubate other champion farmers. I hope Mirabi will also be able to tell you how many disciples she has created through over this last 7 years in this project. But before that also she was our CRP in the SCRP days. So I'll stop here because I would like you to listen to our real hero, Mirabi there. And, then happy to take questions after this is over. Over to you.
Yes, Meerabi. Meerabi Chunduru is a natural farmer in Andhra Pradesh. She joined the women's self-help group in her village in early 2000. She's a master trainer with the AP Community Managed Natural Farming, and her model, using 30 types of seeds, helps with cyclones and other disasters, reduces water usage, and improves yields and health.
Thank you. Good evening, all. My name is Meerabi Chunduru. I am from Andhra Pradesh, India. I am very happy to see you all. Presently, I am working as a state master trainer on Raitu Sadhikara Samastha, Andhra Pradesh, India. As explained by Mr. Vijay Kumar sir, I have recently started to learn English. I have telling my life journey is more Telugu. I requested your cooperation to hear, which will be translate on the and PPT and my colleagues Swati.
So she'll be speaking because it's more comfortable for her to speak in Telugu, and we have the story here, and I'll be doing a translation as well as she speaks. So Japan.
Oh, I didn't realize Mirabi could speak English so well. Congratulations.
That was really good. Amazing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. My godfather, my trainer, my support to Sir Vijay Kumar sir, and my family. And start in Telugu, Swati in translation in English. I started 11 years అంటే నాకు చిన్న వయసులో 11 సంవత్సరాల వయసులో నాకు పెళ్ళయింది. 14 సంవత్సరాలకి నాకు 2 పిల్లలు పుట్టారు. అప్పుడు నాకేం తెలీదు. ఆడుకోవడానికి వెళ్ళిపోయాను, నేను ఆటలు ఆడుకున్నాను. నేను పిల్లలు పుట్టినప్పుడు ఏమీ తెలియదు నాకు అసలు.
So she's saying that she got married at the age of 11, and by the age of 14 she had 2 children, and that is like that was a norm a few years back. And she was a child and she didn't know anything, and she used to just go for playing, and she was really naive and young.
Until the year 2008, my husband did health condition went bad.
So in 2008, her husband actually got some brain trouble, and his health went bad, and
Sorry.
No, don't say sorry.
So sorry. In 2008, my husband హెల్త్ కండిషన్ వెంట బ్యాడ్, అంటే అసలు ఆరోగ్యం బాగలేదు. పడిపోయాడు, పొలంలోకి వెళ్ళాడు, ఇంటికి వచ్చాడు, పడిపోయాడు. నాకేం అర్థం కాలేదు. పిల్లలు చిన్న పిల్లలు, నేనేం చేయాలో నాకు అర్థం కాలేదు. కానీ డాక్టర్ దగ్గరికి వెళ్ళాము. డాక్టర్ ఏమన్నాడంటే, మీ హస్బెండ్ డిఫరెంట్ కెమికల్ స్ప్రేయింగ్ చేయడానికి వెళ్తున్నాడు కాబట్టి, మళ్ళీ డిఫరెంట్గా కెమికల్తో ఆహారం పండించిన ఆహారం తిన్నాడు కాబట్టి తనకు బ్రెయిన్ ప్రాబ్లం వచ్చిందని చెప్పాడు.
So basically he was working on the field one day, and he basically fainted, and then they took him to the doctor, and the doctor said because of unsafe farming practices he was spraying the chemicals, so that fumes along with possibly the consuming of such food because of the lack of safety equipments, he got some problem with his brain.
అది బ్రెయిన్ ప్రాబ్లం ఉంది కాబట్టి తను ఎప్పుడు అంటే చనిపోతాడో తెలీదు. నేనైతే గ్యారెంటీ ఇవ్వలేను. అది మీ అదృష్టము, మీ పిల్లల అదృష్టము, నేనైతే చెప్పలేనని చెప్పి కొన్ని మెడిసిన్ రాసిచ్చాడు. అప్పుడు నాకు ఏం చేయాలో అర్థం కాదు. నేనేం చదువుకోలేదు, పిల్లలిద్దరితో చాలా 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 బాధపడ్డాను. నాకైతే సపోర్ట్ చేయడానికి ఎవరు లేరు. నేనేం చేయాలో నాకు అర్థం కాలేదు. అప్పుడు నేను సెల్ఫ్ హెల్ప్ గ్రూప్లో జాయిన్ అయ్యాను. ఉమెన్ సెల్ఫ్ హెల్ప్ గ్రూప్లో నేను సభ్యురాలుగా ఉన్నాను నేను అప్పుడు.
So basically she was not able to understand what to do, and she was too young and there was no support which was given, and that is she had joined the self-help group, women self-help group. So this is the backstory of what's coming.
సెల్ఫ్ హెల్ప్ గ్రూప్లో జాయిన్ అయినప్పుడు మా విలేజ్లో అక్కడ నాన్ పెస్టిసైడ్ మేనేజ్మెంట్ NPM అని ఒక పురుగు మందులు వాడని ఒక ప్రాక్టీస్ చేస్తూ ఉన్నారు. మా బాబాయ్ ఉన్నారు అక్కడ CAగా. తను ఏం చెప్పాడంటే, నువ్వు ఎక్కువ పురుగు మందులు స్ప్రేయింగ్ చేయటం వల్ల మీ హస్బెండ్ ఇట్లా జరిగి ఉండొచ్చు, మళ్ళీ అదే మీరు పండించడం వల్ల కూడా జరిగి ఉండొచ్చు. నువ్వు నాతో పాటు వచ్చిండడితే నేను ప్రాక్టీస్ ఏదైతే నేర్చుకుంటున్నాను నువ్వు కూడా నేర్చుకోవచ్చు అని దాంతో పాటు నన్ను కూడా తీసుకెళ్ళాడు అక్కడికి.
So she was part of the women self-help group, and as Mr. Vijay Kumar was mentioning that a non-pesticide management program had started in the self-help group movement itself to support the agriculture livelihoods. So her uncle was a community animator, CA, community animator, who was going and like what Mirabi is, like community resource person, he was for the non-pesticide management movement, and she used to just tag along and go to communities while he was speaking and learn from them.
అలా జిల్లా సమైక్య మీటింగులు, మండల సమైక్య మీటింగులు, వివో మీటింగులు, SHG మీటింగులకు కంపల్సరీగా అటెండ్ అయ్యి ఆ గ్రూపులు ఏమేమి మాట్లాడుకుంటున్నారో తెలుసుకొని అప్పుడు నేను 1 ఎకరం నా పొలంలో నేను ప్రాక్టీస్ చేయడం మొదలుపెట్టాను. అంటే నాకు చదువు లేదు, నేనేం జాబ్ చేయలేను, నాకు ఫార్మింగ్ ఒకటే నేర్చుకున్నాను, చేత అవుతుంది నాకు.
Okay. So basically she went to the different meetings, as sir was mentioning, Mandal Samakya, Jilla Samakya and all. She has an acre of land and she started doing natural farming or pesticide-free farming. What she is saying is that she does not have much education and she is not qualified to do a job. The only thing she knows is farming. So
ఆ ఫార్మింగ్లో పండిన పంటలు తినటం వల్ల మా హస్బెండ్కి కొంచెం హెల్త్ ఇంప్రూవ్ అయ్యింది. హెల్త్ కండిషన్ కొద్దిగా ఇంప్రూవ్ అయితే డాక్టర్ దగ్గరికి వెళ్ళినప్పుడు డాక్టర్ అన్నారు, మీరు అది ఎంత కొత్తగా ఉంది, ఎంతగా చూస్తున్నాను నేను, ఎలా ఇది మీకు సాధ్యపడింది ఇది అంటే, అది పూర్తిగా తగ్గదు కానీ బాగానే ఇప్పుడు ఇంప్రూవ్ అయ్యింది, కొంచెం ఆరోగ్యం పర్లేదు, బాగానే ఉంది, నేనైతే గ్యారెంటీ ఇవ్వగలను, మీ హస్బెండ్కి 20 సంవత్సరాల వరకు ఎటువంటి ఇబ్బంది అయితే ఉండదు, కంటిన్యూగా నేచురల్ ఫార్మింగ్లో పండించిన పంటలే తినడం వల్ల ఇతనికి ఆరోగ్యం కుదురుపడిద్దని చెప్పారు డాక్టర్ గారు.
So she went to so obviously after the consumption of good chemical free food really improved his health, and she's saying that they went to the doctor and the doctor was also surprised that there is not like I was not able to give guarantee first. He is not fully cured, but his lifespan will be 20 years. His health has bettered for a lot, and he was also surprised by that.
తర్వాత నేను అనుకున్నాను, ఒక ఉమెన్గా నేను ఎంత స్ట్రగుల్ అయ్యాను, ఇట్లా ఎంతమంది ఉన్నారు, ఇంకా ఎంతమంది ఇబ్బంది పడుతున్నారో అని చెప్పి నేను అప్పుడు డిసైడ్ అయ్యాను. ఇక్కడే కాదు, వేరే జిల్లాల్లో లేదంటే వేరే గ్రామాల్లో, మండలాల్లో నా వంతు కృషి చేసి నా కేస్ స్టడీని ఉమెన్ SHG మీటింగ్లో చెప్పాలని చెప్పి డిసైడ్ అయ్యాను. అప్పుడు డిసైడ్ అయినప్పుడు 2015లో విజయ్ కుమార్ సారు పూర్తి న్యాచురల్ ఫార్మింగ్ మీద ట్రైనింగ్ ఇచ్చారు హైదరాబాద్లో. ఆ ట్రైనింగ్ తీసుకొని నేను నెల్లూరుకి CRPగా కస్టమర్ రిసోర్స్ పర్సన్గా అక్కడికి నెల్లూరు జిల్లాకి వెళ్ళడం జరిగింది నేను.
So she decided that her life journey, her story can become a case study for inspiring other women. So in 2015, when the natural farming program started, and she mentioned Mr. Vijay Kumar as well, that she got selected as she said cluster resource person. It's basically community resource person. So and she took training in Hyderabad, and then she was deployed to Nellore district. So she hails from a district called Guntur, and for the first time in her life, she went to a different district as in means of a livelihood opportunity. So
నెల్లూరు జిల్లాలో అక్కడ ఉన్నప్పుడు రైతులు ఒక ఉమెన్ అంటే ఒక ఆడ మనిషి అక్కడ నుంచి వచ్చి ఉమెన్ ఇక్కడికి వచ్చి మాకు చెప్పి, ఇక్కడ ఏం మారుస్తావు నువ్వు, నీకేం తెలుసు, నువ్వు ఏం చెప్పగలవు నువ్వు ఒక మహిళవి, నువ్వు ఎలా వచ్చి ఇక్కడ ఉండగలవు, ఎన్ని రోజులు ఉండగలవు, నువ్వు ఇక్కడ వద్దు వెళ్ళిపోమన్నారు నన్ను. కానీ నేను రాలేదు, అది స్ట్రాంగ్గా ఉన్నాను. నేను మీలో మార్పు తెచ్చేదాకా నేను వెళ్ళను, మా జిల్లాకి వెళ్ళనని చెప్పాను నేను.
So what she's saying is that initially she faced a lot of backlash. She was said, you are a woman, you came from elsewhere, why should we really believe you, and you should go back to your own place that you have come. So that was the initial backlash. What she's saying is that she said that I am not going to go, I will transform you, I will change you, and then only I will leave. So that's what she said. And she used the word strong, so she's like, I'm extremely strong too. Yeah.
అట్లా నేను ఆ ప్రాక్టీస్కి ప్రతి ఇంటికి వెళ్ళి అక్కడ కూర్చొని వాళ్ళు మేము మారుతామో, మేము చేస్తాం న్యాచురల్ ఫార్మింగ్ అని చెప్పేదాకా నేను వదలలేదు. అక్కడే కూర్చొని వాళ్ళు డోర్ కొట్టి పొద్దుగూకులు వాళ్ళకి పదే నాకు ఇట్లా జరిగింది, మా హస్బెండ్కి ఇలా జరిగింది అని చెప్పి మళ్ళీ అదే గ్రామంలో ఇంకా ఎవరికైనా కానీ ఇలాంటి చిన్న చిన్న ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఉండయామనని అక్కడ ప్రతి ఇంటికి వెళ్ళి అడిగేదాన్ని నేను. మీకు ఇలా ఏమన్నా ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఉన్నాయి, ఇంకా మీకు తెలిసిన వాళ్ళకి ఉన్నాయి అని అడిగి మాట్లాడి వాళ్ళ న్యాచురల్ ఫార్మింగ్ వైపు తీసుకురావడానికి నేను నా సాయశక్తిలో ప్రయత్నం చేశాను. ఆ టైంలో 2017లో.
So what she started doing is going door to door and sitting there until you have to keep. So she kept on nudging them, you have to do it, you have to do it, you have to do it. Then also she's saying she used to identify if there are some problems in the houses related to health and all, so she used to target those families and to transition them to natural farming. So that is how she was trying to buy in, take the trust of the farmers.
2017లో విజయ్ కుమార్ సార్ సెల్ఫ్ హెల్ప్ గ్రూపులతో పనిచేయమని చెప్పి మాకు ఇంట్రడక్షన్ ఇచ్చాడు. ఇచ్చినప్పుడు మేమేం చేసామంటే ఆ సెల్ఫ్ హెల్ప్ గ్రూపులతో మళ్ళీ నాకు చాలా సంతోషం వేసింది. ఇప్పుడు నేను ఒంటరిగా ఒక్కదాన్ని వెళ్ళి ఒక్కొక్క ఫార్మర్ని బతిమలాడి మాట్లాడి వాళ్ళని తీసుకొచ్చే బదులు ఒక ఉమెన్ సెల్ఫ్ హెల్ప్ గ్రూప్ని కూర్చోబెట్టి ఒక 10 మంది ఉన్న గ్రూప్ని కూర్చోబెట్టి నా కేస్ స్టడీ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేయడం వల్ల కనీసం ఒక 5 నుంచి 6, 7 మంది రైతులు ఉమెన్ గ్రూపుల్లో ఉన్న వాళ్ళు ఉమెన్ ఎవరైనా సరే మారి వాళ్ళ హస్బెండ్కి చెప్పి మారుస్తారని ఒక గట్టి నమ్మకం వచ్చింది నాకు. ఎట్టంటే ఒక ఉమెన్ చెబితే భార్య చెబితే భర్త మారకుండా అయితే ఉండడు, 100% మారుతారు. నాకు చాలా సంతోషం వేసింది ఆ గ్రూపులు ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేయటం, మండల సమైక్యకి అక్కడ కూడా మండల సమైక్యకి వెళ్ళటం, జిల్లా సమైక్యకి వెళ్ళటం, నా కేస్ స్టడీ పదే వినిపించి అక్కడ ఉమెన్ సెల్ఫ్ హెల్ప్ గ్రూపుల్లో నుంచి ఎక్కువ మంది రైతుల్ని నేను మోటివేట్ చేశాను అక్కడ.
So there is a backstory first, I'll tell you, and sir is also here. So when the program on natural farming started,
slowly.
When the program on natural farming started, my apologies. So we worked with, in 2015 till 2017, we worked with men. So we were working with men and women because the perception that a farmer is majorly a man. So as a program, we worked with men. In 2000, and it took us nowhere because it's very difficult because men are not working in collectives. So you have to go one, yes. And so our rate of transformation was very arithmetic. So in 2017, what she's mentioning, and that is the backstory, is that the program decided that we will work only with the women collectives because the rate of transformation becomes from arithmetic to a geometric progression because we don't have enough time or resources and we need to reach to a bigger audience. So what she's in the context of that backstory, in 2017, her portfolio, the profile changed to working with women self-help groups also. And that is where she mobilized women and started nurturing and nudging them to make champions out of her. So like how she has been that leader, community leader, she started nudging other women champions to become the community leaders in her SSG.
ఎస్ఎస్జీలో కూడా నేనేం చేశానంటే ఉమెన్ మాకు అప్పుడు ఇంటర్నల్ సిఆర్పీలు కావాల్సి వచ్చారు. అంటే ఆ లోకల్లో ఎక్కువ మంది ఫార్మర్స్ని మార్చడం కోసం ఇంటర్నల్ సిఆర్పీలు కావాల్సి వచ్చినప్పుడు నేను ఆ సెల్ఫ్ హెల్ప్ గ్రూపుల్లో నుంచి ఉమెన్నే ఎంచుకున్నాను. అంటే మహిళలు అయితే బాగా చెప్పగలరనే ఉద్దేశంతో ఎక్కువ మంది మహిళల్ని 22 మంది మహిళలను నేను ఎంచుకుంటే అప్పుడు జనసేన ఏమన్నారంటే అయ్యేంటి అచ్చగా ఆడవాళ్ళని తీసుకుంటారా, మగవాళ్ళు మేము ఈ ఫార్మింగ్ చేయించడానికి మార్చడానికి మేము అర్హులం కాదా, మేము వద్దా అని అన్నప్పుడు నేను చెప్పాను, నేనే ఎగ్జాంపుల్ తీసుకుంటే మీరు ఫస్ట్ టైం నేను వచ్చినప్పుడు మీరు నన్ను వద్దు వెళ్ళిపోమన్నారు, కానీ ఇప్పుడు నేను వెళ్తానన్నా మీరు వద్దు ఇక్కడ ఉండమంటున్నారు. అట్లనే ఈ ఉమెన్ మళ్ళీ వెళ్ళి వేరే జిల్లాలకు కానీ లేదా వేరే మండలాలకి గ్రామాలకు వెళ్ళినప్పుడు ఈ ఉమెన్ చెప్పినప్పుడు ఎక్కువ మంది రైతులు మారతారనే ఉద్దేశంతో వీళ్ళని తీసుకున్నానని చెప్పి నేను హ్యాపీగా వాళ్ళని నేను 22 మందిని నేను తీసుకొని వాళ్ళని కూడా నాలాగా ట్రైన్ చేశాను అక్కడ.
So she's saying that internal CRP, she's a community resource person, and we are calling the juniors as internal community resource person. These are like interns to who are nurtured and handled so that they can become CRPs, right? So she identified women internal CRPs, and that she is giving an example that's when men came saying no, why you don't want us or what, like because we also can become internal CRP. And that is when she said, when I came first, you said no to me, and now you're not letting me go from this area only, and you have made me my own, and these women will also be becoming me and will be going to other areas and will be transforming the farmers. And by her work, she transformed 22 internal CRPs. So women farmers, farmers, natural farmers, from natural farmer the transition is an internal CRP. So as sir was also mentioning, the good performing farmers become champions, and then they are elevated to become teachers and teachers of teachers. So
తర్వాత నేను 2019 వరకు 230 మంది రైతుల్ని 380 ఎకరాలు న్యాచురల్ ఫార్మింగ్ వైపు తీసుకురావడం జరిగింది. 2019లో ఆర్వైఎస్ఎస్సి టీం వాళ్ళు నాకు ఒక ఎగ్జామ్ పెట్టారు. ఆ ఎగ్జామ్లో క్వాలిఫై అయ్యి సబ్ డివిజనల్ యాంకర్ SDAగా నాకు ప్రమోషన్ రావడం జరిగింది. మళ్ళీ నేను బ్యాక్ తిరిగి మళ్ళీ మా ఓన్ జిల్లా గుంటూరు జిల్లాకి రావడం జరిగింది నేను.
So what she is saying is that she has transferred more than 2,300 farmers to natural farming. And so 2,300 farmers is a universe of transformation. Of that, she has made 22 internal champion farmers also, and around 320 hectares of land also has transformed. In 2019, there was an internal exam because we need to pull in fresh blood. As I was saying, there are 10,000 Mirabis, right, in the program. So that requires that constant handholding. Suppose so the new blood comes in and the old blood becomes the teachers of the teachers. So from being a teacher, she became a subdivisional anchor. That means she became the teacher of the teachers. So her job is not directly working with the farmer. Now she'll be working with the younger Mirabis like her. So that is what happened in 2019. Yeah. So and she returned to her original village or district that she was working in Guntur.
అక్కడ నుంచి నేను 4 మండలాల్లో వర్క్ చేశాను. 1 ఇయర్ తర్వాత మళ్ళీ ఒక మండలంలో ఒక యూనిట్లో నేను SDAగా రైతులతో కలిసి పనిచేయటం స్టార్ట్ చేశాను. కొత్త మళ్ళీ నెల్లూరు నుంచి ఇక్కడికి రావటం, మళ్ళీ నేను ఇక్కడ కొత్తగా నేను ఫార్మింగ్ స్టార్ట్ చేశాను. తర్వాత ఎక్కడ నెల్లూరులో చేసినా మళ్ళీ వచ్చి గుంటూరులో నా ఓన్ జిల్లాలో చేసినా కూడా నా ఓన్ ల్యాండ్లో న్యాచురల్ ఫార్మింగ్ చేస్తానే నా ఫ్యామిలీని చూసుకుంటా నేను వర్క్ చేస్తా ఉన్నాను.
So after that, she in 2019 she became she was given 4 mandals, and after a year then she was transformed to just dedicated 1 mandal. And what she is saying is, not just doing this work, I have also kept on innovating on my own farm also. And this is and you'll be surprised to know that the model that she was able to innovate is called, we have named it as Meerabi model. So there are farmers in the state of Andhra Pradesh who are doing this Meerabi model, and she'll explain.
అప్పుడు 2019 నుంచి 2023 వరకు సార్ విజయ్ కుమార్ సారు నవధాన్య పద్ధతి, PMDS, ప్రీ మాన్సూన్ డ్రై షోయింగ్ పద్ధతి, నవధాన్య అంటే 8 నుంచి 15 రకాల విత్తనాలు, నవధాన్య విత్తనాలు PMDS కోసం. అంటే అప్పుడు రైతులు, కెమికల్ రైతులు వాళ్ళ ల్యాండ్ని ఖాళీగా ఉంచేవాళ్ళు, న్యాచురల్ ఫార్మింగ్ ల్యాండ్ కూడా ఖాళీగా ఉండేది. సారు అప్పుడు ఏం చెప్పారంటే, ఖాళీగా ఉండకుండా 8 నుంచి 16 రకాలు నవధాన్య పద్ధతిలో భూమిని 365 రోజులు కప్పిపెట్టే విధానాన్ని తీసుకొచ్చారు విజయ్ కుమార్ సార్.
So what happened was that there is this intervention of pre-monsoon dry sowing. So natural farming is there, and then there are innovations that happening, and there is an innovation of pre-monsoon dry sowing. What? Sorry. Sorry. So, you okay? Yeah. So, the pre-monsoon dry sowing is, what she's saying is that so farmers in general in India keep their land fallow. They don't, apart from one crop or two crops, they keep it vacant. So what PMDA, so pre-monsoon dry sowing, is saying is that we need to move from keeping land just vacant to covering it throughout the year. The 365 days green cover. And pre-monsoon dry sowing, by the name itself, that before monsoon, there is immense summers. So you keep that land covered with soil. And it is very counterintuitive. What I'm going to say is that natural farming, by means of harnessing of water vapor from the air, gives that required moisture provided to the soil for germination. I'm just adding a bit of extra to give you a context. So that is what Mirabi did. Was there was innovations that she did, and from now on, now you are you students, and there will be a Mirabi masterclass. She'll tell you what is the innovation that she does with the community. So this is the master class. Yeah.
ఇప్పుడు 8 రకాల నుంచి 15 రకాల విత్తనాలు విజయ్ కుమార్ సార్ చెప్పారు. కానీ ఆ 8 నుంచి 15 రకాల విత్తనాలు వేసిన పొలంలో ఆ పొలం ఎలా మారుతుందో నేను గమనించాను. ఆ సాయిల్ ఎలా మారుతుందో గమనించి 15 నుంచి 30 రకాల విత్తనాలకి నేను పెంచాను.
So initially the protocol was, she's saying, Vijay Kumar sir, when we developed the protocols, we were talking about crop diversity, seed diversity. Recommended from the program was 10. She said, why 10? So she basically innovated, saying, let me see what happens if I do 30 variety of seeds. So, yeah. So she proposed for 30 varieties of seeds. Yeah.
ఆ 30 రకాల విత్తనాలు పొలంలో చల్లినప్పుడు, అంతకుముందు ఈ 8 నుంచి 15 రకాల విత్తనాలు వేసినప్పుడు అవి భూమిలో కలపటం జరిగేది. కానీ నేను ఏం చేశానంటే 15 నుంచి 30 రకాల విత్తనాలని సీడ్ డెవలప్ చేసి పొలంలో వేయించి, అది దాంట్లో వచ్చిన, అంటే మనకి 2021లో మన కరోనా వచ్చింది. కరోనా టైంలో 30 రకాల పిఎండిసి విత్తనాలు, 30 రకాల విత్తనాల్లో వచ్చిన వెజిటేబుల్ మరి ఆకుకూరలు, లీఫ్ గ్రీన్ అండ్ వెజిటేబుల్ క్రాప్స్ ఆ రైతులకు చాలా ఉపయోగపడి, అంటే బయటికి వెళ్ళలేని పరిస్థితిలో ఉన్నారు వాళ్ళు అప్పుడు.
So what she's saying is that this transformation from 10 to 15 to 30 during the time of COVID, when the availability of food supply was limited, so this variety of the seeds that they were growing helped in supplementing the nutrition as well as the food to the families.
అది చాలా సంతోషపడ్డారు రైతులు. మేము ఇప్పుడు బయటకు వెళ్ళలేని పరిస్థితిలో 30 రకాల పంటల్లో నుంచి మేము క్రాప్, వెజిటేబుల్ అండ్ ఆకుకూరలు తిన్నాము. ప్లస్ మళ్ళీ అది మిగిలిపోయిందల్లా వాళ్ళ గేదెలకి, పశువులకి మేతగా కూడా ఉపయోగించుకున్నారు వాళ్ళు. ఉపయోగించుకున్న తర్వాత ఇంకా నేను ఆలోచించాను, రైతులకి ఇంకా ఖర్చు తగ్గించాలి. ఖర్చు 15 నుంచి 25,000, 30,000 కూడా అవుతుంది రైతుకు అని చెప్పి నేను ఆలోచించాను. నేను ఏం చేయాలి, ఇంకా రైతుకు ఖర్చు తగ్గించాలని నేను ఏం చేయాలని చెప్పి ఆలోచించి, ఆ 30 రకాల పిఎండిసిలు వచ్చిన క్రాప్స్ మొత్తం ఆ రైతు వాడుకున్న తర్వాత దాన్ని కట్ చేసి గేదెలకు వేసిన తర్వాత సాయిల్ దున్నకుండా, అంటే కదిలించకుండా, దాన్ని ఎక్కువ సాయిల్ డిస్టర్బ్ చేయకుండా ప్యాడీ సీడ్ని డిబ్లింగ్ చేయాలని నిర్ణయించుకున్నాను నేను.
So what she is saying, very interesting, she is saying that it was not just the nutrition diversity, even farming was costly to the farmer. So she said the costing is around 10,000 to 30,000 per cropping season, and you can just divide by 100 for pounds. So that is the amount of costing that was accruing to the farmer. So she wanted to also ensure that the amount, the costing for farming comes down, and that's why what she did was she innovated. So she cut whatever the crop after harvesting is residue, she used to feed it to the farmers, to the cows. Wow. To the cows. Yeah. Sorry. So feeding to the cows. So that becomes a source of fodder to the cows as well, because livestock is a secondary livelihood activity. So that is one innovation she did. The other innovation she is talking about is, I don't know why it just keep on running. So the other innovation that she did was the paddy dibbling methodology. In India, and I'm sure other places also, paddy is the major crop. So paddy is basically first done in nursery, and the sapling comes out, and then that's transplanted in the field. What Mirabi did was that she did direct dibbling of the seeds into the soil itself. Yeah. Either paddy did? No, this is the before. Yeah, so these are all 60 days PMDS farms. No, this is the paddy. Paddy tarvata?
Paddy vachindi.
Ida?
This
is. Yeah, this is the paddy one. Yeah, chippan. Yeah. This is the paddy dibbling innovation that she's found.
ప్యాడీ డైరెక్ట్గా అంటే సాయిల్ని దున్నకుండా నేను డైరెక్ట్గా డిబ్లింగ్ చేశాను. డిబ్లింగ్ చేసిన తర్వాత అది 9 నుంచి 11 రోజులకి మొలకలు నర్సరీ చిన్న చిన్న మొలకలు రావడం నేను గమనించాను.
So she directly dibbling is basically she put it directly in the soil. So without the nursery and then the sapling and then the transplantation, she directly put, and she said I didn't before, because the contemporary methodology is the soil has to be tilled. So she didn't want to basically move the soil on the farm, and that's why she thought that doing dibbling, let's just do dibble and see why is paddy grown separately and then the saplings are harvested. So yeah,
అట్లా మార్కింగ్ చేసి అన్నీ ఉపయోగించేసి నేను మార్కింగ్ చేసి 10 ఇంచెస్ దూరంలో నేను హోల్ చేసి ఆ గింజలు వేయటం జరిగింది అక్కడ.
Yeah, she just did the marking, and the 10 inches, every 10 inches she did a marking with the sticks. A hole was punctured, and then she put the seeds into the hole. And these seeds are treated with the natural farming inoculants, Jivamrut, Drava Jivamrutam. Yeah.
Okay.
So now this is, you'll see the transformation. So yeah.
అది చూపించండి.
You
అది అట్లా హోల్ చేసి కింద హోల్స్ పెట్టాను. దాంట్లో డైరెక్ట్ సీడ్ వేసేసాము. అప్పుడు సాయిల్ డిస్టర్బెన్స్ దున్నలేదు, ట్రాక్టర్తో సాయిల్ని డిస్టర్బ్ చేయకుండా డైరెక్ట్గా.
So I think it's self-explanatory, right? So she did not use the tractor, and she directly put the seeds in the holes that was punctured. Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the activity that was carried out with the community also.
అది ప్లే అవునాయి చెప్తా.
అది play. So
7 days and 9 days నర్సరీ ఆ హోల్స్లో వేసిన వడ్లు నర్సరీ వచ్చిందనమాట. అక్కడ అక్కడ ఎక్కడన్నా గ్యాప్లు వచ్చిన దగ్గర ఆ పక్కనే ఉన్న మొక్కలు తీసి ఆ గ్యాప్ ఫిల్ చేయడం జరిగింది.
So wherever there were gaps, she just took one sapling from the neighbor's plant and then put it in the gaps.
అది ఓన్ ల్యాండ్.
It's her own land, by the way.
ఓన్ ల్యాండ్.
So she has 1 acre, so that's the land she has.
వీడు కలుపు ఎక్కువగా వచ్చింది, ఏం చేయాలి అన్న ఉద్దేశంలో ఆ వేడర్తో కలుపుని రిమూవ్ చేయడం జరిగింది. వేడర్.
Yeah, so she used a weeder to remove the weeds in between the bunds, the paddy bunds. Yeah.
డిబ్లింగ్ ఫీల్డ్.
This is how the 75 days after we saw the initial dibbles, and this was what the field looked like.
అది డిఫరెంట్ గా కనపడుతుంటే రకరకాల రైతులు, ఎక్కువ మంది కెమికల్ రైతులు, న్యాచురల్ ఫార్మింగ్ రైతులు, అగ్రికల్చర్ అంటే డిపార్ట్మెంట్ సంబంధించిన ఒక ఆఫీసర్లు కూడా వచ్చి ఫీల్డ్ చూడటం జరిగింది.
So seeing the extravagant field, so chemical farmers, natural farmers, agriculture department people started coming to her field.
దానిలో డిపార్ట్మెంట్ సమక్షంలో నేను సీసీ చేయడం జరిగింది. 5x5
crop cutting experiments. So this is for the science enthusiasts. So it's more yeah. Yes. So చెప్పండి సీసీ గురించి.
సీసీ అట్లా చేయటం జరిగింది. అది అప్పుడు ఆ డిపార్ట్మెంట్ వాళ్ళు నమ్మలేదు. సీసీ మేము ఏదన్నా ఏమన్నా తప్పులు చేస్తామని చెప్పి వాళ్ళు డ్రోన్ కెమెరా పెట్టి సీసీ చేశారు అక్కడ.
So she's saying
Yield
that
కోసం.
the department did not believe these results and they put a drone camera to see the CCE experiments.
అయినా నేను ఎక్కడ భయపడలేదు, నేను భయపడలేదు. పెట్టుకోమని చెప్పాను, డ్రోన్ కెమెరా పెట్టుకోమని చెప్పి నేను ఛాలెంజ్ చేశాను వాళ్ళకి.
So this is
5x5 క్రాప్ లో, ఆ 5x5 లో 21 kg 720 grams ఈల్డ్ రావటం జరిగింది. అట్లా చేసిన కొట్టితే తర్వాత లాస్ట్లో 44 bags ప్యాడీ సీడ్,
44 bags of rice paddy.
అప్పుడు కెమికల్ రైతులకి 25 bags 30 bags మాత్రమే వచ్చినాయి కెమికల్ చేసిన రైతులకి. అప్పుడు ఆ టైంలో మనకు ఫ్లడ్ వచ్చింది, వర్షాలు ఎక్కువ వచ్చి తుఫాన్ వచ్చింది, అందరి పడిపోయినాయి. కానీ నా ఫీల్డ్ పడలేదు, స్ట్రాంగ్గా నిలబడింది. నేచురల్ ఫార్మింగ్ ఫీల్డ్, డిబ్లింగ్ చేసిన ఫీల్డ్ స్ట్రాంగ్గా నిలబడింది. మిగతా ఫీల్డ్ మొత్తం పడిపోయింది.
I think I need no they don't need translation. So basically she's saying that the natural farming field was more resilient. So there was so her area is prone to cyclones, and other field they actually got damaged, and like the crops basically shunt, but her field the crops were standing. So that kind of resilience also was developed in the paddy field.
నాకు ఫస్ట్ పిఎండిసి దగ్గర నుంచి బండిస్ గట్ల మీద చెట్లు పెట్టాను, పిఎండిసి పెట్టాను. లాస్ట్ నాకు హైయెస్ట్ ఈల్డ్ ఇన్కమ్ 84,000 చిల్లర నాకు ఇన్కమ్ వచ్చింది. అప్పుడు నేను చాలా హ్యాపీగా ఉన్నాను. అట్లా రైతు కూడా నాతో పాటు రైతు కూడా చేశాడు, ఇదే విధంగా ఒక రైతు చేశాడు నాతో పాటు. ఆ రైతు కూడా 1 lakh వరకు ఇన్కమ్ వచ్చింది.
So she's saying that not just her, so along with her there was another farmer who did it, and he also got 1 lakh rupee of income from the Mirabi model. Yeah, so these are the విత్తనాలు.
అవి 30 రకాల పిఎండిసి విత్తనాల రకాలు. నేను ఏమేమి వేసాను అంటే లీఫీ గ్రీన్ కానీ, వెజిటేబుల్ కానీ, లేదా ఆయిల్ సీడ్ కానీ నేను వేసిన 30 రకాల సీడు మొత్తం టోటల్ 12 kgs 35 grams నాకు నా ఫీల్డ్లో ఒక ఎకరాకి ల్యాండ్కి సరిపడా ఫీల్డ్కి సరిపడా విత్తనాలు అయ్యి.
So she did 30 types and 12.5 kg worth of seeds that she put in 1 acre of her land. So thank you so much for listening to Mirabi, and I'll just take it from here. And this is a very good amalgamation of speakers because we have Mr. Vijay Kumar, who is from the government side. He's a community man, but he's a government official. We have the community. And then there is a third pillar. There is the professional sides, where I'm sure many of you don't believe professionals ruin the world, right? But then people like me who come from the professional or the market side with supporting the program with respect to technical aspects, fundraising and other elements also. So these 3 pillars are very crucial for ensuring that scales and systems change happen. So and these are the major levers that will take forward. So now taking this conversation of the context that Mr. Vijay Kumar said, then Meerabi told about her life journey, and this is just one Meerabi. We have 10,000 Meerabis as was mentioned, and we have 850,000, almost 1 million farmers who are being trained as we speak. Now, how we need to take it to a path of conclusion, because we'll want to hear Selma out also, that in India agriculture is feminized. And we want to feminize agroecology also. What we feel is that agroecology is required for women's agency, and women's agency is required for agroecology. So these are interchangeable relationships that will improve the agency of women. And we are not only talking about agency with respect to the household, the agency on farmlands. What type of crops needs to be grown? In India, majorly commercial crops are they are called male crops, are taken care by men, and then there are female crops which are done by women, which are leafy vegetables, spinach. So their say in the program is limited to the kitchen level of their dwellings. So what we are saying is that the agency needs to be improved, and it is improving from natural farming, from the house, from the kitchen to the household level, to the farm level, and then to the community level. And that is why we are calling it Andhra Pradesh Community Managed Natural Farming Program. So it is managed by the community. So now we have spoken about it from the program perspective, but we need to also understand what is evidence. There are evidence seekers of the world, the policy makers. We need to really convince a larger audience to talk about that why should we be doing this? Why we should involve women into the narrative, why we need to involve women in the transformation. And as Mr. Vijay Kumar said, that the title should be Women Saving the World, right? So that kind of evidence is also happening. So the program has a strong focus on developing the science behind natural farming, developing the science behind agroecology. So anybody who says the productivity, one question we get heard, productivity is a big question, money is a big question. So we want to talk about the true cost of growing food is not just the money or the yield. Nobody talks about the industrialized regime is not talking about the impact of chemicals that is caused on the environment. Nobody is talking about the labor of women or the agriculture labors that goes into it. Nobody is talking about the loss of biodiversity. So those are the hidden costs that has been shunned away from the mainstream narrative. So one of the very good research that was done, study that was done by Global Alliance for Future of Food, by Just Advisory was, let us start with finding the true cost of growing food, and let Andhra Pradesh be that example, where they saw three scenarios. They saw the conventional agriculture system. They compared it to the natural farming system, and they also took the organic farming system. So there are three scenarios just to have a more stronger evidence. And what they basically found was that the APCNF is superior as compared to the other farming systems. Now why this study was crucial is because when one big question which Mr. Vijay Kumar gets asked, or we are just saying that women are the secret ingredients, but this is all anecdote. Where is the evidence? Where is the academics talking about it? So we have been asked this question. What is the scientific backing for it? So what this study helped us bring the social capital, especially of women, into the mainstream forefront, into academia, saying that because of involvement of women as a social capital, was all these changes were able to come out. The virtuous cycle that we are talking about of increased economics, the betterment of environment, as well as household and community level impact. And obviously the health impacts, post-COVID world that we are in, health is it's a game changer for all of us, because even somebody who is propagating pesticides or chemicals are invisibly will buy only organic. So there is a dichotomy. Nobody would want to have an apple which is spray with a very harmful pesticide, right? So health impact is extremely crucial, and this study focused on three major aspects. So the world wants to hear economics, so economics has to be done, but social and health impact also. So I would conclude here, and back to you, Jyoti.
I have goosebumps. I was getting so many goosebumps listening to you and this amazing work.
1 second. In Bible, one sentence, 14:1 about women. A wise woman can build her house beautifully. My family చాలా హ్యాపీగా ఉన్నాం. చాలా అంటే మా ఇద్దరు పిల్లలు బాగా చదివించుకుంటున్నాను. మా హస్బెండ్కి హెల్త్ కండిషన్ కూడా బాగుంది. నేను చాలా హ్యాపీగా ఉన్నాను. యాజ్ ఉమెన్ గ్రామంలో నుంచి వేరే జిల్లా నుంచి రాష్ట్రానికి ఐ సో హ్యాపీ. లండన్ మీ అందరిని చూస్తున్నందుకు నేను చాలా 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 హ్యాపీగా ఫీల్ అవుతున్నాను. చాలా హ్యాపీగా ఉన్నాను. మా విజయ్ కుమార్ సార్, స్వాతి, సెల్వింగ్ మేడము, మీ అందరిని చూడుతున్నందుకు, ఇంత పెద్ద నాకు అవకాశం ఇచ్చినందుకు నేను చాలా 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 సంతోషంగా ఉన్నాను. చాలా థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్.
So she is basically thanking you, and she said, as a rural woman, from my village community to getting that exposure at the district level, state level, national level, and now being here in London has been a profound experience. And she's just thanking everybody that thank you so much for giving her that opportunity.
Thank you for coming. Just having Mirabi here and the amazing work that you're all doing, to me, it's one of the most profound things, really, because I spend so much time in spaces where all of the politics, all of the decisions, all of the power is made by people who just don't understand this amazing, quiet revolution that is going on every single day. People like Mirabi just completely restoring and holding and healing everything quietly, invisibly. You know, the voice of people who are peasant farmers is one of the most marginalized voices in this entire planet, yet it's the vast majority, feeding 80% of the people. 80% of global food security is provided by small-scale peasant farmers working on the ground. Really let that sink in. What Mirabi is doing, what the other women are doing, that really amazing revolution that's happening with almost no support, where, you know, I was talking about 25 years ago that, you know, the Andhra Pradeshi women were stopping that program that was going to transform their agriculture into industrialized agriculture politically. And then we heard from Vijay about how over 3 decades, within that 25-year span, you have this amazing revolution where through collective action and solidarity and that deep work of working together, through persistence and quiet strength, just building, they've completed a complete revolution there in the state of Andhra Pradesh and gained force politically to be able to gain support from the government. I mean, that is one of the most unrecognized and beautiful revolutions I have ever heard of. And I'm really touched to have you here. I'm really touched. And to be honest, for all of us, it's real hope. It's real hope. You know, we hear from all the multinationals and all of their solutions and on vertical farms and all this technological rubbish that's being given all the money. And yet, you know, people are working away at this. And, you know, to know that also Via Campesina, that we're a part of, has 200 million peasant farmers as a part of our networks, creating these farmer-to-farmer networks with, you know, people starting from the ground up, from their own experience in their heart and in their soul and their dedication, and then spreading that, and then spreading that to others, and them spreading that onwards, and them spreading that onwards. And if you think about that's true hope. That's true hope. Because it means that even without those people focused on carbon markets and all that shit, we can actually create a real revolution, and we can support that and catalyze that so that we can really restore the soil. We can try and create crops. You know, Mirabi talking about the dew-fed crops and the different seed varieties that can be grown without all the irrigation. Think how important that's going to be when we start facing droughts. Think about these systems when we have this huge variety of different seeds, some that can survive when there's droughts, sometimes when there's floods, you know, providing all these different forms of nutritional security as we get more ultra-processed food and Nestle and Coca-Cola banging on everybody's, you know, inner spirit. You know, these are the ways we're going to restore the soil, how we're going to bring back biodiversity, how we're going to recreate community and solidarity, and the sense of all of us working together. And what you're doing is the most important work in the entire world. Thank you so much for it. Selma, who's also a real hero of myself and my daughter, when she heard that you were coming to my farm, she's studying politics and history at Manchester University, and she was going, "Oh, Selma, I'm reading her book right now. Oh my God." And she got really, really excited about the fact that all you heroes are actually coming after this to my place. She can't wait to meet you. Selma's founder of the International Wages for Housework campaign and coordinator of Global Women's Strike, which campaigns for a care income for all those caring for people, the land, and the natural world. She's the author of Our Time Is Now, Sex, Race, Class, and Caring for People and Planet. So Selma, sum it up for us.
Thank you. Thank you. There's so much to hear, so much to think about. I'm full of what has been said. I want to say where we began, though, in the 1980s. We wanted to know how much work women did because we thought, that's right, because we thought that when people realized that women made all of the children in the world, all, that they would begin to realize that this work should be paid for and people should not be, mothers in particular, but women generally should not be poor, having done this remarkable thing of peopling the world. and that was my position, and we began to work, and then we went to the UN in the 1980s, and the first thing we did was we thought the slogan, "Women count women's work." And then we found out that there was a woman at the UN who had told her husband, who was an academic, an economist, she said, "I want some figures proving how hard women work." He said, "Where am I supposed to get them from?" She said, "I don't know, but get them." And he got them. And he said, women do 2/3 of the world's work, well, it felt like that, for 10% of the income and 1%
of the assets.
Of the assets, yes. Sometimes I forget because I never saw those assets. Anyway, we went to the UN, and in 1985, because the women from the new countries, you know what I mean by new countries, newly independent countries, was so still grassroots, thinking of how much work they did, that when you said, "We want to count the work," they said, "Yes." And we succeeded in getting a woman saying, "I want to make one little change in the paragraph," you know, that kind of thing that changes the whole world. And we got women's work on the land, in the home, in the community, and on the land. Now, we wanted on the land counted because we had tried to find the ILO figures for the work that women in Africa did, since the conference that we was concentrating on was in Africa, and it said that women in Africa don't do much work. Imagine 80% of the food eaten in Africa at that time was grown by women, and they made all the children too, and took care of the grandchildren, etc. And they had said that women were not working in Africa, and the basis of that was, if you don't get a wage, you're not working. And our experience was that we didn't get a wage, and therefore we were working and entitled to one. And we pursued that through the UN Decade for Women, and finally, in Beijing in 1995, we got a terrific resolution passed because we got a woman who was in one of the delegations. She was also a member of our organization. We didn't tell them that. And she worked to get a terrific resolution passed and checked with us before they passed it inside that this work was to be counted by every government, to find out just what was happening. And a whole industry began, there were opportunities for women to do figures, and they said men and women were doing the same amount of work, only men were not hoovering, they were doing the garden. Whatever it was, somehow the men were working very hard, and we were trying to keep up. But finally, ultimately, the question of women's work was on the agenda. And then the other question was, if you have this work going on, it's not so important as the job you go outside the home. And we said, wait a minute. Having children is rather important to the world. And if you are raising children, you are working hard. And in the recent few years, this has begun to be important. But also we have had to stress, and that's why we came to you really, we had to stress that we were carers. This wasn't a question of hoovering a little rug somewhere in New York, This was making the whole human race and raising it. And we were supposed to raise the food at the same time they began to realize we were farmers. And in India, for example, in the global south generally, 70% of the work that women do outside the home is agricultural work. So there is an enormous amount of agricultural work going on, and we do feed the world. And when you figure all the work that we're doing, now when we work outside the home, we get 55 to 75% of the wage that men get. So there's another argument about that work that's going on, but we also are aware that we feed the world in another sense. Breast milk keeps children alive, and we happen to produce it, not in a factory, but in our bodies, and it's particularly suited for the children that we have. And so when we saw this kind of figures, by the way, we do a lot of work in agriculture, but we only own about 13% of the land that we work. And we're profoundly aware that breast milk is an important part of what we women produce in the way of food. I want to skip some of this because we have been entertained, really, and educated, and we were doing some other work. Okay. We heard about Andhra Pradesh, and the first thing we heard was that you were doing organic food. Then we heard something else was going on, and one of the men in our men's group, Heyday, that supports the work that we do and do a lot of work themselves changing the world, he said Andhra Pradesh is different. So we took a look at it, and we were astonished at what you all were doing, and that it was self-help. Now, that was really important, not only for the obvious reason that you want people to help themselves, but that is the beginning of creativity. You make an experience with the world, and if you do it collectively together, that is transformative. You become somebody else, and you're describing precisely that process of changing the world and therefore changing yourself and your society. Now, the thing that really astonished us was that the self-help was not only agriculture. Agriculture was the way to make your living. Agriculture was the way to give your children the food that they need, and not the nonsense and sometimes poison that we have to do most of the time if we can't get anything better. Agriculture could stop global warming. And that really, it meant that what you were doing in Andhra Pradesh is, in a way, what we all must be doing, which is fighting on many fronts at once.
Mm-hmm. Woo! Viva!
When we heard the brother on the video, he said, the women in Andhra Pradesh are like gods. He said they are entitled to an income. Now, that's exactly what we lived for, is an income for the caring work that we do. And he was saying, and we meant on the land, you know, in the community and in the home. And this man was saying, for the work that you do, you're in Andhra Pradesh, you're entitled to a wage. We said, who are these people? And we pursued it. And then we had a long interview with him, asking him a lot of questions. And then we said, we're sending people. And two of the people that we sent are in this room. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Here's one. I can't see because of the light where Kasturi is. Okay. We went and we saw. And what we saw was a women's movement that the world had not heard about. We couldn't understand it. And as soon as we saw that there was a women's movement on the land who were getting enough money to be financially independent from men and getting the support of the local government, no small matter. And when we understood that these women were not thinking they were not doing anything, they were thinking that the world had to change to suit them.
Yes!
And I voted for the 4 people to go. I wanted to go myself, but the younger ones went, and they brought back news.
That it's true.
But I have to tell you a couple of things. First of all, they were very well treated. They were treated as colleagues. as comrades, as friends. They were welcomed. And we knew that we wanted to return the favor, and today is first result. Thank you. I think of all the things that you have done have shown that housewives have a mind of their own and they need to use it as soon as possible. We saw that when you are supported, when you are able to get a government to back what you are doing, not tell you what to do. That's not what I'm talking about. Making a deal is not what the name of the game is. When you get a government to back you in order to end poverty, you end poverty. And what is wrong with that? The thing is quite amazing, because I think of all the things that you have done that have enabled not only your people but all people. It's there for us. It's there to use. It's there to exploit in the true sense of that word, that is, make use, full use of what you have found out, and the fact that you have found that source of power, which is women getting on with their business in a collective, and I don't know quite what to say, what we do. We get on. We help each other. And self-help is helping others. You know, that is really the secret of your success. Self-help. You help yourself to help other people, and other people help themselves to help you. And this is the kind of world we want to live in. Once you exist, you are a shining example that we can go around and say, you know what I told you I wanted, there it is. And that's terribly important at this moment in time. We want to save the earth. We want all the creatures to survive. We want to enjoy life. We want our children to grow up well and not have half a dozen illnesses because their diet is not right. There are many things that I would spend the rest of the time mentioning, listing them, but I can't do that. We must have at least a few minutes for questions.
No, I think that's it.
Anyway,
You solved it.
what I want to say is that it is an example of what we can do and how we can do it. And they are showing their interest in the rest of the world by sending this sister in particular, but others as well, to go and say, look, you can do it this way. Try it this way. And I love the phrase hand-holding, because that's so much of the work that women do with each other. You hold their hand while they go through a crisis, and they hold your hand when you go through a crisis, and you couldn't live without them, and they can't live without you, and that again is the kind of world we want to live in.
Shall we end by all holding hands?
She's saying we all hold hands and we end by holding hands. Yeah. Huh.
Anyway, I want to say yes.
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 Thank you so much for really making this happen.
Sorry, we ran out of time for questions. There was just too much precious everything.